Picture this. You are standing in a Wingstop in San Diego, regular Tuesday afternoon. The place smells like hot sauce and fryer oil. A tall guy in the corner is at the counter. Plain t-shirt, basketball shorts, beat-up sneakers, carefully counting out a stack of coupons before he orders. You would think nothing of it. That man just signed a contract worth over $250 million. That is Kawhi Leonard. 2 NBA championships, 2 Finals MVP awards, one of the 5 best basketball players alive. A man who could buy this Wingstop, the building it sits in, the entire strip mall around it, and still have so much money left over that it would not register on his bank statement. And he is standing at the counter counting coupons for chicken wings. This is not a rumor. This actually happened, and the people who witnessed it could not believe what they were seeing. But anyone who has paid close attention to Leonard over the years was not surprised at all, because Leonard is not performing humility for cameras or building a brand around being the humble superstar. He genuinely does not care about money in the way that almost every other person on the planet who has ever made this much of it does. The question is why? Why does a man worth $250 million live like he is one bad month away from the rent being late? Why does the most quietly dominant basketball player of his generation drive a car that a high school teacher would not look twice at, live in a house that does not match his contracts, and spend his free time doing things that have nothing to do with being famous or wealthy? The answer is not simple, but it is one of the most interesting stories in professional sports. And it starts not with basketball, not with a contract, not with a championship ring. It starts at a car wash in Compton, where Kawhi Leonard came from. Kawhi Leonard grew up in Compton and Moreno Valley, California. If you know anything about Compton, you already understand that it is not a place that allows you to be soft. It is a city that has been through economic collapse, gang violence, and the kind of generational poverty that does not resolve itself in one generation just because one person in the family gets lucky. His family was not wealthy. His father, Mark Leonard, worked hard and built something modest but real. He owned a car wash in Compton called Ice Cold Car Wash. Not a franchise, not a chain. His own business, built with his own hands and his own money. Mark Leonard was a man who understood that in Compton, if you wanted something, you built it yourself because nobody was coming to build it for you. He grew up watching his father work, not in the abstract way that kids are aware their parents have jobs. He watched his father at the car wash regularly. He saw what it took to build and maintain a small business in a neighborhood where everything was working against you. He understood from very early on that money was something you earned carefully and held onto tightly because it did not come easily and it did not stay forever. His mother, Kim Robertson, was strong in a different way. She kept the family grounded, kept the focus on education and responsibility, and made sure that her kids understood the value of everything they had because she had seen what happened to families who forgot that. Kawhi was the youngest of 5 children. The house was full. There was love, and there was structure, and there was not a lot of extra. You appreciated what you had because you could see exactly what it cost to have it. Then, on January 18, 2008, everything changed. Kawhi was 16 years old. His father, Mark Leonard, was shot and killed at his own car wash, at his own business. The thing he had built with his own hands in a neighborhood that had already taken so much from so many people. Gone. Just like that. On a regular day at a place that was supposed to be his. He never speaks about this publicly. Not in any detail. Not in any of the rare interviews he gives. Not on social media because he is not on social media in any meaningful way. The people who know him well say that this is not because he has processed it and moved on. It is because some things are too deep and too personal to perform for strangers. But you do not need him to tell you how his father's murder affected him. You just need to watch how he lives. Every single thing that is unusual about Leonard's relationship with money, with fame, with status, with the trappings of NBA celebrity, all of it traces back to a 16-year-old boy standing at a car wash in Compton, understanding that the world can take the most important things from you in a moment, and all the cars and the watches and the nightclub tables mean absolutely nothing when that happens. That understanding did not leave him. It became him. If you did not know that story about Kawhi's father, you are not alone. Most people have no idea. Hit that like button and stay with us because this story is just getting started. The basketball years, what nobody saw coming after his father's death. Kawhi did what he always did. He went quiet, and he went to work. He was already a serious basketball player before that day. After it, he became something different. Not more aggressive, not louder, more focused, more internal, more locked in on the one thing he could control completely, which was his own preparation and his own performance. He went to Moreno Valley High School in the Inland Empire. He was good enough to get recruited by mid-major programs, but he was not a 5-star prospect. He was not the kid on the magazine covers. San Diego State University took him, and he went there, and in 2 years he became one of the most dominant defensive players in college basketball and declared for the draft. The Indiana Pacers picked him 15th overall in 2011. then traded him that same night to the San Antonio Spurs for George Hill. George Hill. The Spurs gave up a solid starting point guard to get Leonard. At the time, most people thought Indiana won that trade. They were wrong in a way that is almost difficult to comprehend looking back at it now. He arrived in San Antonio and immediately encountered the one environment that was perfectly designed for everything he already was. The San Antonio Spurs under Greg Popovich were the most disciplined, least flashy, most fundamentals-obsessed franchise in professional basketball. No ego. No individual spotlight. No tolerance for anything that did not serve the team. He fit in like he had been designed specifically for that system. He worked. He was early to everything. He stayed late for everything. He asked questions and then went and practiced the answers thousands of times until they were automatic. He developed his offensive game the same way he had developed his defensive game. Not through natural talent alone, but through the kind of relentless, quiet repetition that most people cannot sustain because it is boring and slow and produces no immediate visible results. His hands became famous. Those massive, almost cartoonishly large hands that could grip a basketball like most people grip a tennis ball. Defenders complained that he was palming the ball on every move. Coaches loved that his hands made him almost impossible to steal from and gave him leverage on defense that no amount of technique could fully replicate. By his third season, he was the best defensive player in the league. By his fourth, he was a first-team All-NBA selection. In 2014, he won the NBA Finals MVP award against the Miami Heat, guarding LeBron James, outplaying him on both ends, and doing it all without a single moment of visible emotion. When the final buzzer sounded and the Spurs had won their fifth championship, Leonard did not scream. He did not cry. He looked around the court with an expression that seemed to say that this was the expected outcome of the work that had been put in and now it was time to go home. That is not a performance. That is just who he is. The car, the coupons, the reality. Let us talk about the 1997 Chevrolet Tahoe. Kawhi Leonard bought this truck when he was in college at San Diego State. He bought it with money he had saved and it was reliable, and it got him where he needed to go. When he got drafted by Indiana and then traded to San Antonio, he brought the truck with him. When he signed his first big NBA contract, millions of dollars guaranteed, he kept the truck. Years went by. The money kept coming. The contracts got bigger. The fame grew. The Tahoe got older. Reporters who covered the Spurs would see it in the practice facility parking lot and assume it belonged to a staff member. Someone on the equipment crew, maybe. Someone who handled the laundry or drove the van. Not the franchise cornerstone. Not the best two-way player in the league. Not the man who had just been named Finals MVP. When someone finally asked him directly why he still drove it after all the money he had made, his answer became one of the most quoted things he has ever said. It runs, and it's paid off. 4 words, completely unironic. Not performing modesty, not trying to create a narrative. The car functions. He owns it outright. Those are the only 2 criteria that matter. Every other consideration, appearance, status, what other people think, whether it matches his income level, simply does not register. He eventually did get a different car, not because he wanted to upgrade, because the Tahoe, after years of service, was finally getting to the point where it was costing him more in repairs than made practical sense. Even then, the replacement was not a Lamborghini or a Bentley or anything that would make anyone look twice in a parking lot. He got another practical truck. The coupons are equally real. He was known throughout his time in San Antonio for using coupons and looking for deals at restaurants. Not occasionally, regularly. Not as a bit or as a joke that teammates played along with. Genuinely, sincerely using coupons because paying full price for something when you have a coupon that reduces the price is wasteful, and waste bothers him at a level that has nothing to do with how much money he has. The Wingstop story is the one that circulated most widely because it was so specific and so verifiable. A man worth hundreds of millions of dollars, carefully presenting his coupons at a chicken wing restaurant, unbothered by what anyone watching was thinking. He wanted the wings. He had the coupons. The transaction made sense. End of story. His teammates over the years have all told versions of the same story. Going out with Kawhi means going somewhere reasonable. It means he is looking at prices on the menu. It means he is not the one suggesting the place that charges $40 for a plate of pasta. He does not begrudge other people spending their money however they choose. He just has absolutely no interest in doing it himself. Kawhi counting coupons at Wingstop is one of the most genuinely funny stories in NBA history. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. There's a lot more coming. What he actually does with the money here is the part of the story that matters more than the coupons and the old truck. Because Kawhi Leonard does spend money. He is not putting it in a mattress. He is not refusing to engage with his wealth at all. He is just doing something with it that looks completely different from what most NBA players do. He buys real estate. Quietly and consistently throughout his career, he has been acquiring property in California. Not the kind of real estate that gets written about in celebrity magazines. not a compound with a gate and a helipad that a drone photographer flies over for YouTube content. Investment properties, the kind that generate rental income and appreciate over time and require nothing from you except the patience to hold them. He has invested in businesses. His portfolio includes stakes in companies that most people outside of business circles would not recognize by name. He is not attached to a celebrity tequila brand or a headphone company that uses his face as the primary marketing. He has looked at businesses with actual fundamentals and put money into them because the numbers made sense. He owns New Balance equity. His shoe deal is not just a contract that pays him per shoe sold. He has equity in the company itself, meaning as New Balance grows in value, so does his stake. This is the LeBron Nike model applied at a smaller scale, but with the same underlying logic. You do not just get paid for your endorsement. You get paid forever because you own a piece of something that keeps appreciating. This is not accident. This is not the result of having a good financial advisor who steered him in the right direction. This reflects a consistent philosophy about what money is actually for. Money is not for demonstrating that you have it. Money is a tool that either grows or it does not. Spending it on things that depreciate, cars, jewelry, tables at clubs, is the same as throwing it away. Putting it into things that appreciate, property, equity, ownership stakes, is the only thing that makes sense. He learned this not from a finance class. He learned it watching his father build something in Compton with nothing, and watching how fragile that something was when the world decided to take it away. The car wash is still there. Kawhi kept it. After his father was killed, the family could have sold it, could have closed it, could have let it go as part of putting that chapter behind them. Kawhi did not do that. He kept his father's car wash open, and it still operates today. That decision tells you more about him than any contract number ever will. The Toronto Miracle, and what happened after. In 2018, the San Antonio Spurs traded Kawhi Leonard to the Toronto Raptors. The story of how that trade happened is complicated, and involved a genuine disagreement between Kawhi and the Spurs organization about how his injury rehabilitation was being handled. He had missed most of the previous season with a quad injury, and he felt the team's medical staff and his own doctors were not in agreement. He pushed for more control over his recovery. San Antonio did not handle it well. The relationship fractured. The trade happened. Toronto got him for 1 year. Everyone in the city understood this from the beginning. Kawhi Leonard was going to be a free agent after the season, and the smart money said he was heading to Los Angeles. He had grown up in Southern California. His family was there. The Lakers or the Clippers were the assumed destination. So Toronto got 1 year of the best version of Kawhi Leonard, and the city embraced him in a way that was genuine and slightly desperate, because they understood the clock was running. What happened in that 1 year is the stuff of actual sports legend. The Raptors had never won an NBA championship. They had never even been to the finals. They were considered a good team, but not a real contender. Kawhi changed that calculation the moment he stepped on the court. Then in the second round against the Philadelphia 76ers, with the series tied and Game 7 coming down to the final seconds, Kawhi caught a pass near the right side of the lane, turned, and put up a shot as time expired. The ball hit the backboard, hit the rim again, hit the rim a third time, bounced straight up, and fell through the net. The arena lost its mind. The entire city of Toronto lost its mind. Leonard jogged away from the basket with the same expression he has when he is buying chicken wings. The Raptors won the championship that year. Leonard won his second Finals MVP. And then he left for the LA Clippers in free agency, exactly as everyone had predicted. What is interesting about the Toronto chapter in the context of this video is not the championship. It is what Kawhi did not do during that year. He did not embrace the celebrity of being the most important player on a championship team in a major market. He did not do the media rounds. He did not become a fixture at Toronto's social events or use the platform to build his personal brand. He practiced. He played games. He went home. He ate at places he had coupons for. He drove whatever car he was driving at that point. He won the championship, and then he left. The city of Toronto loved him anyway. Maybe more because of how he was than despite it. In a world of performers and brand builders, someone who just shows up and does the work without asking for anything in return is genuinely rare. The shot. Game 7. Raptors vs. Sixers. One of the greatest moments in NBA history. If you didn't feel something watching that, you might need to check your pulse. Subscribe to the channel and drop a comment. Where were you when that went in? The Clippers' years. Injury. Silence and patience. The Los Angeles Clippers signed Kawhi Leonard in 2019 alongside Paul George in a move that was supposed to shift the power in the Western Conference and finally bring a championship to a franchise that had spent its entire existence in the shadow of the Lakers. It has not gone according to plan. Kawhi has dealt with a serious knee injury, a torn ACL, that cost him most of the 2021 season, and has created questions about his long-term availability that the Clippers organization is still navigating. He has played limited games over the past few seasons, and every time he returns, there is a period of managed minutes and careful monitoring that reflects both the severity of the injury and the caution of a team that has learned from the Spurs situation that Kawhi takes his body's signals seriously. The injury chapter is worth examining through the lens of who Kawhi is. Most players in his situation would be constantly in the media, managing their image, staying relevant during the absence, making sure the public knew they were working hard, that they were coming back, that they had not given up. The modern athlete lives and dies by the narrative, and an extended absence without a strong PR strategy can permanently damage a career regardless of the talent involved. Kawhi Leonard disappeared. Not from practice, not from the training process, not from the work. He disappeared from public view. He was not at events. He was not on social media, because he was barely on social media to begin with. He was not giving interviews about his recovery journey. He was just doing the work of getting better in private and trusting that when he came back on the court, the basketball would speak clearly enough without him having to say anything about it. This drove certain sections of the media genuinely crazy. Athletes are supposed to be available. They are supposed to maintain their profile. They are supposed to give the content machine something to consume. Kawhi gave it nothing and was unmoved by the criticism this generated. When he has returned, he has looked like himself, not a diminished version of himself. The same hands, the same footwork, the same shot, the same robotic efficiency that has made him one of the most defensively difficult players in the history of the sport. The Clippers are in a complicated moment as an organization, but Leonard's talent is not the source of the complication. He is still there, still working, still not talking about it. What his teammates actually say. Here is what people who have shared a locker room with Leonard consistently say. He is not cold, he is private. Those are different things, and the people who know him understand the difference. In San Antonio, teammates talked about a man who would suddenly do something unexpectedly funny in practice and then immediately go back to his default setting of total focus. Who would engage warmly in small group conversations but had no interest in being the center of attention in a large group. Who showed up every single day prepared to do exactly what was required and then went home and did not need anything from the night after practice had ended. LaMarcus Aldridge, who played alongside him in San Antonio, and talked about how Kawhi's work ethic set a standard for the entire team, not because he was vocal about it or made anyone feel guilty about working less, just because it was visible every day and it was impossible to ignore. DeMar DeRozan, who was traded away to make room for Leonard in Toronto, has spoken with more complexity about his feelings around that situation. But even DeRozan, who had every reason to have complicated feelings about Kawhi, has acknowledged the level of player he is and the consistency of character that makes him different. Paul George has said publicly that living and working alongside Kawhi changed how he thought about preparation, that the commitment to the work, the refusal to take shortcuts, the way every single practice is treated with the same seriousness as a playoff game, it recalibrated what George thought was possible in terms of professional dedication. These are not teammates saying nice things about someone because they have to. These are specific observations from people who watched Leonard operate at close range over extended periods of time. The picture they paint is consistent, and it is consistent with everything else we know about him. If Paul George saying Leonard changed how he thought about preparation doesn't put this in perspective for you, I don't know what will. Subscribe if you want to keep hearing stories like this one. The philosophy. In plain language. We have spent this entire video building toward one question, and now we can answer it properly. Why does Kawhi Leonard live like an ordinary man? Not because he does not understand what his money could buy. He understands perfectly. Not because he is traumatized into frugality in a way that prevents him from enjoying life. He enjoys his life. He plays basketball. He eats at his favorite restaurants. He has property and investments that are growing quietly. He keeps his father's car wash running in Compton. He lives the way he lives because he decided very early, before the money, before the fame, before any of it, what actually mattered and what did not. And the things that most people use money to signal, status, importance, belonging to a certain class of people, were never on his list. He watched his father build something real with his own hands in Compton. He watched that something get taken away in a moment. And he understood at 16 years old that the world does not care about your status or your possessions, that those things are fragile, that the only things that survive are what you built with real effort and what you hold on to in your memory. That is not a philosophy he arrived at through reading self-help books. It is something that the world handed him by force at an age when most of his peers were thinking about nothing more serious than their next game. The coupons are not him being cheap. They are him refusing to pay for something he does not have to pay for. The old truck was not him being eccentric. It was him correctly identifying that a newer truck would not get him anywhere that the old one could not. The silence is not awkwardness. It is a man who has absolutely no need to fill space with sound. And he has said in one of his rare longer interviews, "I just want to hoop." When asked about the fame and the money and the public attention, he consistently gives versions of the same answer. He wants to play basketball. Everything else is just noise. And here is the thing about a man who genuinely feels that way. He is the freest person in the room. Every room. Always. When you do not need people to think well of you, you cannot be manipulated through their opinion. When you do not define yourself by what you own, you cannot be threatened through what you might lose. When your sense of self is entirely internal and entirely anchored in the quality of your work, the entire external world loses its leverage over you. That is not poverty. That is the most expensive kind of freedom there is. The legacy Kawhi Leonard is 32 years old at the time of this video. He is still playing, still working, still one of the most difficult players in the world to guard when he is healthy and locked in. But the legacy that will outlast the basketball is already clear. He is the proof that you can be at the absolute top of the most glamorous professional sports league in the world, make more money than almost any human being who has ever lived, be recognized everywhere you go, and still be completely and entirely yourself, still drive the same kind of car, still use your coupons, still go home after practice to a house that does not signal to the neighborhood that a famous person lives there, still keep your father's car wash open in Compton because your father built it and it deserves to keep running. He did not escape where he came from. He took it with him. That is the thing that is easy to miss in all the stories about the old truck and the coupons and the viral laugh. The surface story is a rich man who lives frugally, and it is funny and interesting. But the real story is a boy from Compton who lost his father in the worst possible way and decided that the world was not going to take anything else from him that mattered. Not his sense of himself, not his connection to where he came from, not his ability to find value in small things. He is worth over $250 million, and he lives like an ordinary man because being an ordinary man, the real version, the grounded version, the version with his father's car wash still running and his coupons in his pocket, is the most valuable thing he has. He does not need to prove he is rich. He already knows what actually matters. And that, more than the rings, more than the contracts, more than the shot that bounced 4 times and changed a city, that is what makes his story worth telling. If you made it to the end of this video, you already know why Leonard is one of the most interesting people in professional sports. Not because of the basketball, because of the man behind it. Drop a comment below. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it the car wash, the Tahoe, the coupons, or something else? If this video taught you something you did not know before today, share it. These stories deserve more attention than they get. Subscribe to the channel. Every week we go deep on the real stories behind black wealth and success. The ones the mainstream does not tell properly. We will see you in the next one.